Hey, this is Simon Scriver.
And this is Nikki Bell.
We are running a virtual fundraising conference on November 19th. It's called Fundraising Everywhere, and you can find it at fundraisingeverywhere.com.
There's some amazing speakers that we've got lined up for you. We've got some names on there that you will be familiar with and some speakers that you may not have heard before, but all of them will be sharing amazing fundraising methods that are proven to work, and they will be teaching us how to do that in our own charities.
We've tried to make it really affordable for all organizations, but for small charities, it is completely free. So go look at it at fundraisingeverywhere.com. Register now. Join us. It will be accessible, it will be affordable, and it is amazing.
Yes.
You're listening to Simon Scriver's Amazingly Ultimate Fundraising Superstar podcast, talking all things fundraising, charities, nonprofits, and more. Here's your host, as always, Simon Scriver.
If you follow me on Twitter or any social media, you may have heard me sometimes give digital fundraising a hard time. I mean, I don't think I have anything against it. I love it when it works, and I love people who are really realistic about it. And that is one of my guests today. I have brought someone on who always keeps me in check with my opinions about digital fundraising, who is an expert. And who is here today to talk to us about the challenges of digital fundraising and digital for nonprofits, and where we can maybe focus our energies. My guest today is the founder of Digital Charity Lab, Jean O'Brien. Hello, Jean.
Hi, Simon.
How are you?
What's the story?
What's the story? Are you okay?
I'm good. Really good.
Good. Jean, who are you?
Who am I? So I am a digital consultant and designer. I've spent about 20 years working in multimedia, and about 12 of that has been in the nonprofit sector. And in 2014, I founded Digital Charity Lab, which is a social enterprise that exists to provide free and affordable skill building in digital for nonprofits. So charities, campaigns, community groups, social enterprises, that kind of thing.
So it's all things digital. You're helping.
Specifically digital, I suppose, rather than IT, because I know some people think it's funny to call me an IT person.
Is there a difference?
So I suppose IT is about the technology and the infrastructure. IT is setting up your database, connecting your printer.
Yeah.
Digital is about the sort of communication side of it. So using digital channels. So not so much about the hardware, more about how it's used, I guess. So there's some kind of clunky metaphor about how if you're talking about if it was a car, IT would be the engine, and then digital would be the person behind the wheel looking at the map and going the wrong way.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing.
And what are you in that analogy? You're in the boot?
Yeah. I'm Google Maps.
You're Google, yeah.
I don't know what I am that analogy, but yeah, so specifically digital, about like how do you use these technological tools to fundraise, to communicate, to campaign, to raise awareness, to all the things that charities are trying to do.
And you're based in Ireland, and you've worked in the past for very big charities, but I suppose being in Ireland, and I suppose internationally you work as well, you're used to dealing with fundraisers and nonprofits who have no money or little money and very limited resources and how much time they can actually put into this.
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, even working for big charities, and I've worked for Bernardo's and for Oxfam, there's still always budget restrictions, there's still always capacity limitations. For my entire time in Oxfam, I was the only digital person there. In Bernardo's, I was the only digital person for about 3 or 4 years before we started building a team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think any size charity, there's always going to be restrictions. And then, I've worked with a lot of very small charities, and that's who I had in mind when I set up Charity Lab, was charities that are just really struggling to find any kind of time to digital.
And because I point people towards your website a lot, because you provide like a lot of free resources. I mean, some paid stuff, but a lot of free resources, which is really practical guides on how to do some of the not the simplest things in digital, but some of the most important things in digital. Like, for example, the one that comes to mind is your Google AdWords. You have this great step-by-step guide for free that anyone who doesn't really have time to try and figure it out, at least they can keep it ticking over with that. Yeah,
I mean, specifically what I created that for was when Google introduced a lot of new rules for nonprofits at the end of 2017, because I think what had happened was a lot of charities had signed up for the Google grant but weren't really using it properly, and Google were aware, because obviously they can see everyone's data, they were aware that this great service they were providing wasn't really being used, so they just tightened up all the rules and started getting quite scary. So that checklist is about how to fix your account if it's been suspended or deactivated because it's not keeping up with Google's new rules.
It's awesome.
So,
and free.
thank you.
I'll put a link to it. But so one of the big misconceptions about me is that I hate digital.
Where did that misconception come from, do you think, Simon?
Well, probably from my clunky
constant
opinions.
ranting on Twitter about
Maybe.
how terrible digital is.
But I do hate elements of digital that doesn't work. And I love elements of digital that does work. And I obviously use digital with some of my clients. And we share some clients and things like that. So what I'd love to chat to you today about is how, from your point of view, how you weed out the shit, the stuff that doesn't work, and how, where people should be spending their time. People have limited amount of time, limited number of hours. Yes, we'd all love to be on Snapchat. We'd all love to be on blockchain. We'd all, whatever these things are.
We wouldn't love to be on Snapchat.
Would we not?
It's a terrible thing.
TikTok. We're all obsessed with TikTok.
Yeah.
But actually, is TikTok one of the places we should definitely be? Have you tried TikTok?
Slightly, no, I would say. Don't worry about TikTok. I don't think charities need to worry about TikTok.
Okay, great.
That's my fairly definitive opinion on this.
Fantastic. End of podcast. So maybe let's talk about when you go in and you work with an organization, say that you've got quite a blank slate. What's one of the first things that you're going to look at? What's one of the priorities digital?
Sure. I mean, just before I answer that question, you reminded me of something, which is we talk about digital when it does work and digital when it doesn't work. And you reminded me that, I agree with you. There's a real problem with charities and digital to kind of focus on the shiny things. And it reminded me that I created a template a few years ago, which I just named something boring like, needs analysis template. But in my head, I call the digital shiny thing template, where basically when someone comes to me and says something like, can we set up a Snapchat, or let's do a podcast? I make them fill out this form. I exist to kill ideas.
Really?
I make them fill out this thing. It's like, well, what is the objective of this? Like, what's our strategic objective that this is going to meet? Who are the target audience? What evidence do we have that the target audience is actually wants or uses or cares about this? And just I suppose trying to force people to think through, like, because often people just run straight to the content. They're like, I want to produce this kind of content, and I love content. Content is great, but
content is king.
Content is king. I agree. But a lot of the time, people think about. They're excited about a format of content, but don't really think about, well, what's the goal of this and what's the audience that it's going to meet.
Well, we do it the opposite way sometimes, don't we? And I'd probably be guilty of this, where it's like, oh, I like podcasts. Let's set up a podcast. And then it's like, well, who's going to listen to this? And what are we going to say on this? And what are we actually why are we trying to do this?
But it's very different when it's you setting up a podcast as a side project for yourself and a charity investing resources and donor money and time and setting up a podcast. I would say, as an individual, go and play with all these content types and try them out and test them. But when it comes to investing in them as a charity, you need to be a lot more careful. As
opposed to just someone's whim. I'm not sure I ever told you the story, but I used to work in an agency, and this woman I worked with, and some people listening will know who I'm talking about, because she said one day, she's like, I have an idea for something. And we were like, what is it? And she's like, are you ready? Like, an app.
Whoa.
And we were like, and what does the app do? And she said, I don't know, but everyone's doing an app.
Amazing.
And that was and I think that's an extreme example of what we do sometimes. Is we think we should do this because it's cool, or it's happening, or I just saw something on TV about it, and we'll figure out the rest later. But you switch your clients' thinking to
I mean, I suppose that was more of a thing when I was working in charities, and you're allowed to be a little bit meaner to people maybe when you're a consultant, but but it's still something I'd encourage people to think through. Just like, well, if there's a content format, I find it's different when you're in-house and when you're a consultant, because when you're a consultant, people are usually coming to you with something quite concrete in mind, or coming to you with, we don't know where to start, can you help us? So,
well, say I'm doing that. Say now I'm the founder of PigeonAid, and I don't know where to start.
Okay, and that was the question I was originally sort of tangenting from. Not a word, but that's fine. So where to start? I would say, I know like it can be super overwhelming. There's a lot of different digital channels. There's a kind of received wisdom that you should be on everything and you should be just setting a presence, and that you're missing a trick if you don't have a presence in all these channels. But I don't think that's true. And I think charities set themselves up to fail by spreading themselves too thinly. I think for and this kind of applies to everything really, but specifically with fundraising in mind, because I know that's your area. I would say email, the Google grant ads, and Facebook fundraising are really the things that are really working. The first two are really, really well proven at this stage. Like there's decades of data behind both of those to show that they really work. Facebook fundraising is more new, but it's really exciting. It kind of sticks in my craw to say anything nice about Facebook because they are like incredibly evil. But this fundraising tool is genuinely transformative, and like we know charities that are making incredible money, and just activating completely new supporters. It's not about another channel to ask the same people; it's a new audience, which is very exciting.
So I might go through these sort of one at a time. And obviously this is a fundraising podcast and I love fundraising, but you work well beyond fundraising in terms of campaigning and everything. So I'll try and keep that in mind. But for you to say email is a really interesting one because it feels like email is totally almost out of fashion in a way. Yeah. Especially from a marketing point of view. But we don't really talk about email beyond GDPR. Yeah.
It's weirdly been out of fashion for a really long time, but still completely effective. And probably, I think it's the most consistent digital channel. In that email doesn't really tend to drastically change the way, Facebook will change their algorithm, or even Google Ads, which I still think are one of the best. Google changed all the rules a couple of years ago. So, but that doesn't really happen with email. I mean, I would really recommend listeners to your podcast to go and look up Glyn Thomas, who did 2 really interesting experiments where he signed up to 100 different emailing lists of charities in the UK. And he wrote an article and did a video about it. He's a digital consultant and he's really, really good. And he found that there's, just most organizations just aren't using email properly at all. So majority didn't send him a welcome email or a welcome journey. And that's a huge mistake because the moment that someone has shown interest in you is when they're most engaged. And if you can respond immediately, you will get a much better, better response rate to any asks, much better relationship with them. And we've tested it and found that, if someone is registered interest in an event and gets an immediate email versus getting an email 3 days later, they're much more likely to sign up and do the event. Okay. It's just a timeliness thing.
Striking them while they're hot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pretty simple, really, when you think about it, and it makes sense. We're all so busy. There's so many distractions online and everywhere in our inbox and our social media that you can sign up for something and just genuinely forget about it for a week and then be kind of startled when it finally shows up. What Glyn found as well was that a huge amount of organizations just sent asks, and that's one of the biggest problems with digital fundraising. If we can kind of talk about the bigger picture, is so many organizations just go straight into the ask in digital, but what they're missing is the kind of human engagement you have when you do offline fundraising, where you have like a 5-page letter with lovely pictures that someone can read through and really engage with, or a person there who's going to chat to you and make eye contact and make you feel connected to the cause. A banner ad that says donate now or an email that asks right away isn't going to have that impact. So that's the problem, I think, with digital fundraising. People expect it to return quickly, but what you need to do is build the relationship just like you would if you were trying to cultivate someone offline.
Build the trust, deepen that relationship.
Exactly. And it is a relationship, and the reason email is so great is it email feels very personal. Even when you're sending mass emails, people often perceive them as individual emails. Like I'd sent emails from the Bernardo CEO and people would reply and be like, thank you so much for emailing me today, Fergus, and it's like, it was a mass email. Everyone got this. But it's a really good opportunity to build a personal relationship. So there's things like really simple things like use a sender name, put a staff member's name on the emails. Don't just send it from the organization. Make it look like a real email from a real person. Don't put loads of branding and like logos and kind of boring language into it. Like make it like an email you would send to a friend.
Well, it's like I have a blog post on this, but it's like people don't unsubscribe from individuals, they unsubscribe from organizations. And it's if you're trying to make it feel like one person has sat down and said, I'm going to email Jean today.
Yeah, exactly. And when we at Bernardo's, we sent a lot of just impact stories over email. So no asks, just here's a lovely story. your work made this possible. And people would genuinely reply and say, this made my day. This is, you know, you get really, really nice feedback from that. So
you touched on it with something you said there, but there's a feeling as well that people kind of try this stuff once, and you could probably argue this for all digital or maybe even all fundraising.
Yeah.
But they send out an email ask and it falls flat or it doesn't get the result they want, and then they don't send another email for a year because that hasn't worked.
Yeah.
But it's an ongoing process. It
is, and that's a really good point, because what I agree with you completely. Like, people will try something once, it doesn't work, they won't try it again, and then they almost like scupper their own chances, because if you don't contact your list for a year, like, your permissions are expired and people have forgotten who you are, and they might remember that they signed up to you and they might think it's spam, you know. So yeah, like with digital, it is always a slower build. It's just about building the relationship and staying in regular touch, and not deciding that it's if somebody doesn't respond to an ask that they're not interested, it's just it's like you sometimes have to ask someone 5 times before they respond.
Yeah, so it's a not now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and you need to make sure that you don't do something dopey like stop emailing them because they didn't reply to an ask. Which actually, when Glenn did that experiment, I think that happened a couple of times. He was unsubscribed by these organizations when he hadn't given them any money in the first 6 months, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, they just stopped.
They just stopped emailing him.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. I want to ask you about email, because there seems to be like a wealth of content out there. You know, some great, some bad, about what you say when someone's on your list.
Yeah.
You know, what you write to them. But what I almost never really see is how to get those email addresses. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts.
So acquisition, all about it. There's some really good acquisition channels that are free. And I think it's something that people should be thinking in terms of just always on, you know, so just look at all the places that you can put email sign-up forms. So chances are your website has loads of opportunities to add email forms where it's not currently there. Like I was looking at a charity website the other day. It took me ages to find their email page. And then it said, if you want to join our mailing list, send an email to blah, blah, with the subject line, I would like, you know, and it's like, no one's going to do that.
Yeah.
Like 1 in 1,000 people will be bothered to do that.
It's just a bit too much friction.
It's too much friction, and people are used to being able to do things easily and quickly now. So like I would really recommend going through your website, looking at the most popular pages, looking at anywhere you can, like if you've got an article that a lot of people are reading, or a blog post, or a how-to guide, to put a email sign-up form on that page. Make sure it's got a standalone page so you can promote that page rather than it just being on your homepage or in your footer. I mean, content marketing is great. So like a lot of charities have really good information about their cause. So like health charities will have like the first 10 signs of melanomas or something, and it's like that could be a PDF that you can ask for an email address instead of just open content.
Because we are, or non-profits, we are the expert in an area. Theoretically.
Yeah,
we should
absolutely.
be.
I think nearly every charity has information that people need.
Yeah. So and these are people who are interested in that area.
Yeah.
People who may be in a position to support. So it's trying to funnel that, or trying to capture them. Once you show that you're the expert.
Yeah, exactly. And people who are on your email address, who are on your website are interested. Like that's a warm audience. Those are people who are interested. Google ads are a great channel for driving email signups, and that's free because of the Google grant. Other free channels. I mean, this might sound really basic, but like anywhere you meet people, like if you have a sign-in sheet at your office, if you have if you have shops, you know, think about ways you can collect email addresses. Like you can do, you know, fill out a postcard to win a free charity
biscuit?
shop thing.
Oh, yeah. Free charity,
you know, any events you're doing, if you're doing training events, you should be asking people when they book and when they're at the event if they'd like to sign up for emails. And again, that's just that steady trickle, but it's a very, very warm audience. You should get first of all, like a good opt-in rate, and people who are quite engaged will open your emails.
Yeah.
If you have a budget, Facebook lead generation ads are really, really good. So you can do all kinds of different leads on Facebook, and people don't have to leave Facebook to get to sign up. Sorry, they can. There's an ad where they can just tap 3 times and sign up to your list directly on Facebook.
And it's an ad that's what, just simply asking them to sign up, or it's providing them something?
You can do lots of different variants on it. So like things I've done with it is like use it to run a petition. So literally like sign this petition here on Facebook, and then they're asked if they'd like to also opt into emails.
Okay.
Content marketing. So one I did for Mental Health Ireland was download a pack that has information about certain mental health issues.
Yeah.
We got a really, really good cost per lead on that.
Yes.
It's incredibly cheap.
These are all, I mean, the theme here is they're all people who are like interested in the work but
Yeah.
don't know they're interested in you,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
precisely,
And so
yeah,
you're trying to identify people who might be who might have a touch point with you, might show an interest in you, might be getting information from you, and then just trying to hold their hand to the point that they sign up.
Yeah, that's it. That's perfectly put. Like, because think about this, there's all these different entry points or entry routes to an issue. Like, you could be directly affected, you could be have a family member who's affected, you could be interested because you're writing an article about it, you know, and there's or you might know the organization and know people who work there and want to get involved, you know. So yeah, if you have different types of content going out there, you'll get people in different ways. I run a survey using Facebook lead ads, just a really short survey.
Yeah.
People love surveys, you know, they love giving their opinions
Do
about
they?
things. Yeah.
Oh yeah, people do love their opinions.
As long as it's short and it's not boring and it's you know, it's about something that people are passionate about.
And do you ask like real kind of no-brainer questions like do you think hitting a puppy is good or bad? And just
No, I'd love to test that. That's So when I was in Bernardo's, they do a school cost survey every year where they ask parents about the cost of school. And it's a fairly long and detailed survey. Like, it asks, you know, about uniforms and shoes and books and stationery and all that. But one year we did a shorter version of it on Facebook. So it was just to almost kind of just try and reach a new audience. We only asked 3 of the questions, I think, but there are 3 of the kind of top line questions.
Sure.
Like, do you have to go into debt to pay for your child's school costs? Would you like to see action? You know, that kind of thing. And then the call to action at the end of it was like, go through and complete the longer version of the survey.
Oh yeah.
Which we got a really good opt-in rate on that as well. So
I filled in that survey.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's first of all, it kind of highlights the court, you know, as someone who's reasonably privileged, it highlights that these people are going into debt for this, which, you know, maybe someone who's ignorant like me isn't aware of.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, that connection because it feels like you're interested in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But then also there's the result side of it. And so when I see the results, then it's kind of like, that's, you know, like so you feel this connection on many levels. And it's cool because you're not creating content there. You're just asking questions, which is something every organization could do, really.
Definitely. And what we always got out of the survey was like lots of really useful data, but also really good comments and testimonials and just people's like real life situations, which were really powerful things then to use on other channels, put them back out, you know, through campaigning emails and social media and stuff like that. So
I like that. You touched on Google AdWords a couple of times there. So we'll talk about Google AdWords for the whole part, but what were you saying about email, that you're basically driving people to the website?
Yeah, so it's a little technical and fiddly, but I have a lot of this in my resources about Google Ads on the Charity Lab website and on the course that I've set up there. But basically, Google Ads serves search, right? So if someone isn't searching for something, you can't run a Google ad about it, which I know sounds really basic, but most charities don't use Google Ads that way. They'll just be like, here's everything we're doing. Let's set up a Google ad for everything. Okay. But a lot of the time people just aren't searching for those things. They don't care. Okay. So, and I've done loads of keyword research in different countries, and a thing people do not search for is email lists to subscribe to. I know who'd have thunk it, right? But like,
except us.
Except email nerds. But generally, people don't actively look for email lists to subscribe to. But if you ask them at the right time, they will subscribe. So what I found really useful is when you set up your brand keywords. So, you know, for your brand name and the cause you work on. Yeah. If you put site links, which are these little, I'm gesturing as though anyone on the podcast can see the gesture I'm making.
I'll describe it.
Maybe I'll just stick with
gesturing.
She's doing like a rectangle shape. So site links are these links that appear below Google Ads. So if you Google something, you know, anyone listening, you just like Google your favorite charity name, and if they have a Google ad, there should be links appearing underneath the Google ad. Oh,
it's the 4 of them.
Yeah,
you get the two and 2.
Yeah, sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 4. Yeah. And those are a really good place to ask people to sign up for emails because, again, they're like interested in the brand. They're looking for the organization's website. Yeah. They see a little prompt, go like, oh, you have emails, I will sign up for them. So I found those to be a really good channel for email acquisition. And again, it's always on. It's not like a huge deluge. It's just a few every week. Yeah. But like those are free to run.
Yeah, and like highly engaged people who are giving you permission.
Exactly,
in this
it's a warm audience.
GDPR.
Yeah, so exactly. So I found Google Ads are a really good channel for that as well.
Okay, let's talk about Google Ads as a whole because this is one of your obsessions.
Yes,
is that the word? Like
getting quite weird about Google Ads.
You're like a poster child for Google Ads now.
Exactly.
So anyone who's listening who doesn't know what they are,
okay,
give me like a real short version of what they are.
Okay, so Google Ads are ads that appear on Google search results, and they're linked to the keywords. So if you search for cheap trainers near me, Google ad, you should see a Google ad for your local cheap trainers emporium.
Okay.
The Google grant is a grant that Google give to registered charities that gives them $10,000 a month.
Yes.
Or up to $10,000 a month of those type of ads for free.
It's sweet, isn't it?
It's incredibly sweet. And it's like there's very little in the tech sector that's that generous. You know, no other charity is really giving away anything like that. Or sorry, no other tech companies giving away anything like that. I mean, Facebook not charging fees in their fundraising is close enough. But Google Ads is almost, it's a kind of almost like a lower entry bar, I suppose, in that you can be using it for so many different things. You can only use Facebook fundraising for fundraising, but...
Well, it's funny, if you said to someone, do you want $10,000 of free advertising every month?
Yeah.
Every nonprofit would say yes.
Yeah.
And then if you ask nonprofits who's already using this, or who's putting time into this, actually, it's amazing how many people aren't using this at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me really sad because it's such an effective channel and it's free.
Crying sad or just mad sad?
Angry sad, yeah.
Angry sad, okay.
It's angry.
It's angry. And so what organizations should be doing is firstly registering for this, which isn't too painstaking a process at all.
No, I think that's worth highlighting. Like, it's, you know, the way a lot of grants, you have to apply and there's only, you have to provide proof of impact, and you have to do all these long kind of essays, and there might only be 20 grants and 700 charities are applying. Google gives to pretty much everyone. There's only like a handful of exceptions. I think if you're a proselytizing religious charity, they don't give it to you. And if you're a school or a hospital, they don't give it to you. But then school foundations and hospital foundations can get it. Okay. So there's workarounds even for that.
Yeah, I've never really heard of anyone getting rejected.
Yeah, it's really, really rare. I mean, I suppose if you're a campaign, you won't get it. You do have to be a registered charity, but that's pretty great. You know, that's a lot of different organizations. Okay, so I sign up, I get approved by Google, and yes, there's some restrictions in how I can spend this 10 grand. Yeah. But what am I trying to do here with this? I'm trying to show ads that appeal to people. What you're trying to do is you're trying to set up ads that meet a need that's already out there. So I think the reason I love Google Ads so much, I think, is, you know, in the charity sector, we're always talking about warm audiences and cold audiences, and people are always looking for new ways to appeal to cold audiences. And often the good fundraisers are saying, well, look at your warm audience and start with people who are warm to you, rather than wasting energy trying to convert people who don't actually really care about your cause. Yeah. And Google Ads are where you will find your warm audience. Like, that's where warm people are. And what they're doing is they're either looking for you specifically, as in, I'm Googling your brand name, or you mentioned they might know you exist, but they're looking for something that you're offering. So if you write a really good Google ad, someone out there searching for, I need a service for, or, I need information on a service for my father who has Alzheimer's. That tapping you hear on the table is Jean mock keyboarding. Yes, it's very important to keep gesturing to people who can't see what I'm doing. I think it's mean to invite people on your podcast and make fun of them. That's what this podcast is based on. That's all about. But where was I? Oh yeah, so they might not know that the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland exists, but if you have a good Google ad, that will pop up in response to that. And that's like quite a niche example or a specific example. Someone could just be searching for charity Christmas cards, and if you have a good ad, they'll see about your charity Christmas cards. So it just means you're reaching people who are actually engaged with what you're doing. And the beauty of it is they don't need to know you exist. They don't need to be thinking about you. Yeah. But if you can match what they've searched for, if you have that answer or that information that they're looking for, that's how. So you're setting up. So you there's two bits here. You're trying to figure out what people want and what they're searching for, and then you're trying to figure out if you have the answer to it, or where the answer to it is. Yeah, exactly. So how do you figure out what people are searching for? Because people are strange beings. They're really strange. It's funny because a lot of people act like this is impossible to do, but actually there's a tool inside Google Ads called the Keyword Planner that just does this for you. Okay. And it's super interesting. It's like you put in a phrase and it just gives you a load of information about what people are searching for, related phrases, how many searches there are a month. So I can tell that. So I mentioned charity Christmas cards. I did keyword research on that, and there are people who are searching for charity Christmas cards in February and March. I thought it would just be November, December. I don't know either. There may be just those really weird organized people who buy all their Christmas presents in January when everything's reduced. Yeah. Maybe it's that. Wow. Maybe it's people in charities looking for
ideas.
I don't know.
Businesses who are plotting their...
Maybe businesses who are like who need to plan ages in advance which charity they're going to support. I don't know, but there is. I mean, it's not a huge amount of searches. But what was interesting is it told me it's not just November and December. November, December is when it peaks, but there is a significant amount of traffic all year round, and it's worth running your ads all year round.
And you get me thinking there, because then obviously there's a market there for people who are maybe searching, but obviously I'm assuming it's much cheaper to advertise around Christmas cards in February, March, because there isn't a big clustered market of people trying to sell them.
So basically what I would say to anyone starting off with Google Ads or using it in any way is always start with the keyword research. That's what you do. You don't, like I saw someone giving advice recently on Google Ads and they were like, take your website and your sitemap and set up an ad for each page. I'm like, that's completely backwards. Like you don't start with what you want to advertise. You go and you look at your keyword research and you go, can I advertise this on Google? Because sometimes you can't. Like an example is corporate fundraising.
Yeah.
No one is searching for corporate fundraising. There are literally no searches for the phrase corporate fundraising. Because when you think about it, that's only really a phrase that fundraisers use. People in businesses, think about it. If you're in a business and you're in charge of corporate social responsibility, you're not going to Google corporate fundraising. You'll probably Google charities near us.
Or even like you're moving from fundraising to the word donations, because we're trying to think from their point of view. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but even like they don't use corporate donations either. What they probably do is they might Google the charities that they know. They might Google specific causes. They might say, well, we're based in Limerick, so what charities are working in Limerick? They don't Google corporate fundraising. So you just need to go and do all that research and just check and say, well, I can't set up an ad for corporate fundraising, but I can set up an ad for charity in Limerick because people are actually searching for that.
What's the ethics there? Because you're not a very ethical person. But people,
excuse me.
You see sometimes charities who are showing ads when you search for another charity. You know what I mean? Like, so you might search for. I don't want to name because I have someone in my mind who did this. But you search for charity A, and then lo and behold, there's an ad for charity B because charity B is like, is that a bit unethical?
Yeah, well, despite your scurrilous and unfounded claims, I'm extremely ethical, and you'll be hearing from my lawyers about this. But no, you're not allowed to do that. It's actually it's forbidden on the grant accounts. It's one of the restrictions on grant accounts. You can't use competitor keywords, and it's really bad practice because the reason some businesses use competitor keywords is, for example, if you're like, I'm using MailChimp, but I'm sick of it and I want to change. What is an alternative to MailChimp? That's a legitimate reason for another organization to be using MailChimp as their targeting. Charities, that doesn't really apply. Like if someone is searching for Oxfam, they're looking for Oxfam. They're not looking, if they wanted to find charities like Oxfam, they would Google charities like Oxfam. So it's always been bad practice. And I've seen charities do it, and I've contacted charities sometimes when they've been using keywords of brands I've been working for and just been like, can you not do that, please?
The ethics police.
Yeah. Well, it's more the competition police in that case. But Google made it a rule now for grant accounts because I think cool. A lot of charities were doing it just badly. They were like, we are a animal charity. I'm just going to list every animal charity, but it doesn't work. People don't click those ads because, again, if someone is searching for Dogs Trust, they know enough about the organization to know the name of it. They're looking for Dogs Trust. If they wanted all the animal charities available in the world, that's what they Google.
It's coming back to what you said. It's like starting from the wrong side of it. So instead of starting from what our potential donors want, what people are looking for, we're again thinking with our own brains about what we
cold audience and trying to grab something else that isn't really for us.
So our whole exercise here, where we're almost like brainstorming what kind of ads we're going to look at. You're using tools like the Keyword Planner, and you're just really thinking about who is that, not even warm audience, but potentially warm audience who might be interested in what we have to offer them.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing to do is to be super specific. So, for example, and I've seen people kind of struggle with this a bit in trainings and stuff, but like someone looking for an FAQ about skin cancer is different from someone looking for a service for skin cancer, or someone looking to run a marathon in honor of someone they know who passed away from skin cancer. Like they're all very similar, but they're quite different, and they have quite different needs when it comes to Google. So, for example, someone going like, FAQ about skin cancer, like what are the signs? They could also go to the NHS website, or they could go to the HSE website, or they could go to WebMD or something, you know.
Yeah.
So you just need to make sure that your ads are really specific. So you're like, this is an ad, and you label them really clearly, the copy you use. So you might be like, this is a page with information. Are you looking for information about skin cancer?
Yeah.
We are the skin cancer experts. We have information about the signs.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to, do you want to honor someone who passed away from skin cancer, you do a separate ad for that.
Yeah.
And again, very, very specific. So, you know, would you like to set up a memorial page and make a donation, that kind of thing.
So then that brings us to the content, because those 2 or 3 different people, we want them to land on very different pages.
Yeah, and all of them have different needs. And again, I think a lot of the time charities just tend to lump everyone in to the same bucket.
Yeah.
And I've seen them sending people to a page where it's like, I've often seen ads where it's like, you know, information about how to get your dog neutered, and then you land at just the charity homepage, and there's no information about.
That's again almost that default where, you know, we don't have time to assign this up for every the specific pages, so let's just put them all to homepage, and then what we're doing is we're losing those people.
Yeah, we're expecting them to do the hard work of browsing to their site, which they just won't do. And then also Google stops showing your ads. Like Google knows if your ad is relevant. It knows how many people are clicking on your ad. It knows how long people are staying on your website when you when they click on an ad.
Yeah. And
it's like, I was one account I was working on once, there was a notification saying people are only spending 6 seconds on your website when they click on this ad. There's a problem with this ad. So that's how granular it is.
It's cool. I mean, because we sometimes don't think about how Google really works, but like they're looking, if someone clicks through a link and lands on your website and then clicks back, Google knows that.
Yeah,
and essentially what you're telling Google is the information I wanted is not on that page. Yeah. And so you get penalized.
You do. And the way Google is kind of similar to Facebook in that way, in that, you know, the Facebook algorithm, if you post a bad post and no one engages with it, your next post is going to be affected. So, you know, that's why sometimes charities have the issue where no one's seeing their content. Only a tiny fraction are seeing their content.
Yeah.
And Google ads are kind of similar. They will look at your entire account. And if you have a load of really bad campaigns with irrelevant pages or going to irrelevant landing pages, they'll stop showing all your ads. So that's why. So
it's about putting the time and effort in at the beginning. It's not just that let's do as much as possible.
No, absolutely not. And I think a good way to do it, kind of to walk through in steps, is like absolutely brainstorm all the things you'd like to promote on your Google ads, but then do the keyword research. And what you'll find is if you've a list of 30 things like fundraising events and information pages and shops and all that stuff, you'll probably find only maybe a third of them have any kind of keyword volume. So then you just eliminate them, and just remember, like, not every channel is for everything, you know. Like Facebook isn't good for corporate fundraising, LinkedIn is, you know, like that kind of thing. So Google ads, you can't promote everything, but it is still a really, really powerful channel.
So that $10,000 budget every month, we're not expecting people to be using that all the time, you know, every month from the beginning. You're working up towards that, aren't you? Like,
I mean, I would always say to charities not to worry too much about the budget. It's actually very difficult to spend the full budget because it's capped at sort of 10,000 a month, works out about 300 a day, and you can't really spend more than 300 a day. But also it's very hard. Like, it's hard to spend it. You would really need to be advertising in multiple countries. The only accounts I've worked on that have spent it are accounts where they're advertising in like 9 countries. But I say don't worry about that. Like, we at Bernardo's, we raised 5 figures in direct donations from Google ads in 2018, and I think we spent 18,000 of the Google budget. So we only spent less than 20% of the 100 grand.
Wow.
It's 120 grand because it's 10 a month.
Yeah.
So we only spent we only spent like, what's that, 15%. So
wow, very impressive, Jean. The maths.
Oh, thank you. Quick maths. So that was, so that's it's not about, I'd say that the things you should be looking at for your metrics, your kind of KPIs, are not spending the budget. It's getting a really good click-through rate and getting conversions, seeing that the audience that are coming through are converting. And, you know, like a small charity with a niche cause isn't ever going to come close to spending the 10 grand. But don't worry, you can still make money off the Google grant. Don't worry about that. Like, that's not the key thing to worry about.
That's really cool.
But yeah, your account should build over time. You should see like increased traffic and increased clicks.
Yeah, because like all fundraising, you're fine tuning, you're testing little bits, fine tuning, and then putting more
Yeah, and a top tip for Google Ads, and I know a lot of people really struggle with it because it's a little intimidating at first. I think it's very logical, though. I think once you have your head around Google Ads, it's actually a very easy system, and it doesn't change as much as, say, Facebook ads do. It's not as inscrutable, and they actually have support. Like, they have people who will answer the phone. But a top tip is every keyword you decide to run, write one ad for that keyword. So if you have 50 keywords, write 50 ads. And then what you can be sure of with that is that we talked about the thing of being very specific. You can make sure that there's an ad that matches each keyword. So that's what really works. Just being really, really super specific with each keyword.
That makes sense. Okay, so email and Google Ads, they're almost like classic digital products in that they've been around for a few years, and maybe we're not using them to the best of our abilities. But the other thing you mentioned there is perhaps like a new kid on the block of digital fundraising, the Facebook fundraising.
Yes.
And so I've talked on the podcast about this before. This is the new thing Facebook has rolled out in the last year or two. People able to raise money for your nonprofit through fundraising pages within Facebook.
Yes.
And this is another thing you're excited by?
Yeah, and like I said, it goes against every fiber of my being to trust or be excited about Facebook, but it is
because, like me, you hate Facebook.
They're the worst, but it is genuinely a fantastic tool, and I think if any. I mean, there's kind of a negative side to this, I suppose, but if anything can change a culture, it's Facebook. And what Facebook have started doing is just introducing kind of almost like regular giving among a younger generation. Now, it's not monthly checks or, monthly bank direct debits, but people are giving regularly because of their friends' fundraising. So birthday fundraisers, people using Facebook to fundraise for marathons and so on. And if you've ever been on the other end of it, which I'm sure you have, so like, for example, a friend of mine donated her birthday to a homeless charity, and I opened up the donation box and then got distracted, and Facebook reminded me like 5 times to donate, and that wasn't coming from the charity or my friend. It was just Facebook's inbuilt, nudge thing. And just the power of that, and the thing they're doing as well is really interesting. Like, obviously Facebook are amazing at testing, and they have so much data, so many users. So a thing they did, I noticed recently, was really interesting. I did a Facebook fundraising thing Facebook donate appeal for Bernardo's, and people started commenting saying, it's asked me for 30 euros, but I can't afford that. Is it okay to give 20? And we hadn't mentioned a figure. And what we realized was that they'd stopped showing 4 different amounts, which you used to be able to set. So like fundraisers release that, like the menu of options, 7 euros, 21, 35, that thing. They've taken that away, and they just given people one amount, but the amount was different based on the individual. So
based on what they've probably heard by listening into your conversations.
I mean, do you want to talk about the way Facebook aren't listening to your conversations?
Let's talk about this. Let's come back to this, because this is something you and I, because I have a new example for you. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, they obviously, what are they basing it on?
I mean, it's not transparent, but definitely from what people were commenting, some people were like, oh, I saw 50 euros. Oh no, I saw 20. And the thing is, it was all changeable, but I guess these people just saw an amount and didn't realize they could change it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say, I would guess that Facebook are basing it on what they know about the individual, and they know people's, so much money stuff is now integrated with Facebook. Like, people are giving donations. There's also like marketplace. There's other things that people can buy through Facebook.
Yeah.
So
fucking nuts, isn't it? Like, they can look at your past donations, because it's not just to your charity, but other charities. They can see what you've donated.
Yeah, exactly. So they can be like, oh, Jean is generous. Let's ask her for 100 quid. Or Simon's famously tight. Let's ask him for £2.50.
Yeah.
Just as an example, they're actually famously tight. So they were customizing, and obviously they have the data to test, and they would know that converts better than giving people 4 options, which is such a received wisdom thing in the charity sector. That you give people 4 amounts, and that makes them give more.
Yeah.
But then obviously we don't have the tech to customize every single donation ask, or the information about this donor.
They have much more information. They have much more data than us, and they can move much quicker than we can.
Exactly. So the other thing they do, they roll out beta tests, and they'll do it in like Ireland, Poland, and Canada, and then they roll out the rest of the world. So
I'm not going to spend too long talking about how Facebook fundraising works stuff, because I've talked about it a couple of times, and you've put up a lot about it. Suffice to say, nonprofits should be they should be testing this, because it's
100%.
We've seen it blow away
Yeah.
some of our clients, that it's
Yeah,
really raised money.
absolutely.
But what I am curious to ask you is I suppose, going beyond that, firstly I wanted to ask you, are we losing control of our supporters through this? Because you're talking there about Facebook testing on what we'd like to think are our donors.
Yeah.
But they're not in this instance. But are we at risk here of having too much over? We saw it with Facebook ads and our Facebook feed, where it was good for us at the beginning, and then they changed the algorithm and we got fucked over a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, can we prepare for this, or do we just have to go along with this because it's a bit of a windfall for us?
Yeah, I think the second one, unfortunately, and I agree with you. Like, I think there's loads of risks with Facebook, and I know a lot of fundraisers really struggle with the lack of data that you get about the supporters, and opt-in rates are ridiculous. Like, they're actually weirdly small. Like, they're incredibly low. People opting in when they donate to hear more from the charity, and I think Facebook, again, just knowing the way they work, I think they know that opt-in rates, or sorry, that if they emphasize the email more, it would reduce the number of donations. And potentially as well, what they're doing is I think as well, they don't want necessarily to provide loads of data to charities. Like, they're already giving us quite a lot in terms of the no fees on the donations, and I don't think they necessarily want to be a channel to provide emails to charities, so then charities can then not email the people, or send them terrible emails.
Move them off Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, move their relationship off Facebook. So, I mean, I think a couple of different ways to think about it is, first of all, don't think of them as traditional donors. They're a new format of donor. They're almost like cash donors, or sorry, cash as in someone who hands you a $5 when you're doing a book collection.
Yeah.
But unlike that person who hands you a $5, you do actually have an opportunity. So the thing, and I'm sure you've talked about it on the podcast before, I think when Jill O'Hurley was on, thanking them properly, offering to send them something. It's hard work, and it's repetitive, and it's it takes time, but it's really, really worth doing, because you can really cultivate the relationships. There's tools as well, like I think what Give Panel are doing, Nick Byrne and Give Panel, is really exciting. It just automates a lot of that work, or not automates it, but it just makes it much easier to track.
Yeah, and much easier to manage. It's cool.
But it's it definitely. I know. I saw someone from a charity at the Wheel event say that they were doing this very careful thanking of their Facebook fundraisers, and then they were off for 2 weeks, and the average gift went down. Like, it was really, really clear. So it's not just about capturing data as well. I suppose it's about keeping the engagement up, and doing that, legitimizing what the fundraiser's doing, and reassuring their friends that it's legit and it's a real charity, it's not a scam, and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's huge opportunities. There's really huge opportunities to integrate it with groups. Adrian O'Flynn is doing really interesting, exciting work on that. I'd really recommend to anyone to check out his website, which is getyourstorystraight.com. There's huge opportunity, and I mean, there's always this kind of black cloud over it of like, will Facebook change their mind or suddenly lob on a 10% transaction fee? But my take on it, I think, is that Facebook, they introduced it because they were getting so much bad press, for destroying democracy.
I was going to ask you why they do it. You think it's pure PR?
Yeah, I mean, it was introduced was it late 2017? It was introduced, and that was when you think about it, like, Brexit happened, Trump happened. There was all this kind of backlash against Facebook and all this uncovering of like the Cambridge Analytica stuff. And I think it was introduced as a PR move and a kind of goodwill gesture. I mean, I'm sure there's lots in it for them as well. They're getting lots of information and data about people's behavior and their giving and their, the causes they like and the things they respond to.
And what's the future of it? Because like, my feeling is it's an annoying thing on the timeline.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I can't imagine it makes Facebook a more enjoyable place for people to see their friends asking them for donations. Are they not risking their audience? That's an interesting one, and I chatted with Adrian about that recently, because he's really, really plugged into this. And an interesting thing on that is, first of all, not everyone is getting that experience. Like, you might have, because of where you work, you might have more friends that are very engaged with charities, more likely to do it. Well, I surround myself with generous people.
Yes, so that's part of it. Like, I've only seen a handful of my friends do it.
Because you surround yourself with...
No, actually, I think what it is for the age, a lot of my friends just aren't that on Facebook that much anymore. They're all a bit sick of it. So there's people who just aren't using Facebook as much.
Yeah.
Things like people used to always organize everything through Facebook, and now they're not really anymore. But that doesn't mean that no one else is using it. That's just my cohort of friends, well,
it is becoming older, and people like my mom using it, and those are the people with the money.
Yeah, well, there you go, exactly. And they have a very different attitude towards Facebook than our generation. And then the algorithm means everyone's experience of Facebook is different. There's one stage when, remember, they were refining the algorithm last year, I think it was, and there was a lot of press about it, and I'd hidden some of the more annoying people in my circle, and then obviously Facebook messed with this algorithm, and for about 2 weeks all I saw was stories from the Guardian, nothing, like genuinely nothing else. It was like, it's just the Guardian homepage basically is what Facebook has turned into me. So it's quite pleasant. And then they fixed it. So so it's all about groups now. So if you can think of ways to kind of activate groups, Facebook, given all the criticism, Facebook's trying to move away from it being a news platform to being a community platform.
Oh yeah.
Or as they say, obviously, they say stuff.
Yeah, so they're pushing groups a bit more.
Yeah. Well, actually, remind me to talk to you about the stuff that Instagram have said recently about removing likes. So I think that's really interesting. Anyway, Facebook, so if you're using Facebook, you'll often see that groups are the things that pop up in your notifications most. They'll be like, someone posted in this group, don't miss it, because they want people to do that kind of engagement. And engagement is really high on groups. So if there's ways you can use groups, but again, I think the mistake a lot of charities make is they're like, let's make a group for our supporters, but like no one wants to go on Facebook and talk about a charity every day.
Yeah,
it needs to be about an interest or their activism or a support group, or we all get together every weekend and clean beaches. Group, that kind of thing. And I think charities really need to be figuring out ways to tap into that. Like set it up and seed it, but make sure it's something of genuine interest that people actually want to
think about it from their point of view again.
And get used to the idea that like for community fundraisers and digital staff, like you'll be doing, people, the kind of people who would interact with campaigners and fundraisers, doing more of that online, and making sure it's resourced. Because we've had that situation where there's been an event and Facebook group and it's going really well, but we've struggled to make sure that someone can actually check in every day and answer the questions and keep them engaged and thank them and all that. So
I can imagine. I mean, we don't have enough time as it is.
I say I was in Bernardo's, but
but
it's a huge opportunity, and it could all go away. I mean, these things do happen, but at the moment it seems pretty robust. It seems like Facebook have really invested in it. And it's just a great opportunity, and it's definitely not a get rich quick scheme or a fly by night like the loads of charities we know have made loads and loads of money out of it. And I think charities should definitely be signing up first. They shouldn't be sitting passively back and waiting for people to do it. They should be trying different ways to prompt people to get involved. Ads. You can set Facebook ads. They pop up a week before someone's birthday and ask them if they want to do a birthday fundraiser. That kind of thing.
That's cool. So again, we do have a bit of say in this in terms of being smart.
Yeah, and you don't need to know their birthday. Facebook does. So that kind of thing.
That's so creepy.
And you think it is, but it's also like this is information that we just never get. So it's good to have. And things like that. Even have it in your email welcome journey, a prompt to set up a Facebook fundraising page, things like that. And then do the thanking. Like I was really shocked recently. Someone told me they did a birthday fundraiser for one of Ireland's biggest charities, and they never got any kind of thank you at all. Nothing, not a note on the Facebook page. Nothing. That's really, really poor.
You might have heard Jill tell this story that she was in a forum, and one of Ireland's biggest charities was saying that they made the decision not to thank anyone who does a Facebook fundraiser because it's time consuming.
Yeah.
And obviously we've seen Jill in Mental Health Ireland go the opposite way, where she puts in so much time into it, and it's paid off.
No, it's paid off. I mean, the last time I chatted to Jill about it, she was saying that they're getting repeat people coming back, and people who had such a good experience during their birthday fundraiser that they're engaging in other ways. So I suppose to think of it like that, like it's almost like a bucket collection where you actually get to chat to the person properly and thank them properly and cultivate them and ask them to sign up and maybe cultivate them to do something else, which you couldn't really do at a bucket collection without coming off like a total weirdo. So
fair point. All right. So I mean, the three priorities, like there's so much more we could talk about. The three priorities there you talked about, which I mean, I would go as far as to say they're all been neglected. But email, the Google ads and the ad grant, and Facebook fundraisers. And on your website, you have a lot of information about this stuff and resources that can be fun. And then other forms of digital beyond that. So where's the best place for people to find you?
Digitalcharitylab.org is the charity lab. website.
Mhm.
My own personal website is at jeanobrien.com. That's where my kind of worky stuff is. But the Charity Lab is where all the free resources and blog posts and articles and downloads and stuff and online courses are.
And you're really generous on Digital Charity Lab with the free stuff you give, and then really affordable stuff beyond that. I would recommend, and I do recommend everyone to check it out.
Thank you so much. The remit of Charity Lab is to provide affordable training. So so there we go. So
now, before I wrap this up, I just want to go back to the phone listening to me.
Oh yeah.
So someone was talking to me about their bunions, and I have never Googled anything about bunions. I've never looked at anything bunions.
Okay.
And then the next day, I started receiving ads about bunions.
About bunions. Okay.
Explain that to me, Jean.
Okay. Well, I can't really explain the bunion specific content that you're getting. I mean, maybe there is a thing where gentlemen of your vintage are very prone to bunions and you just happen to get it. Sorry,
I just want to flag for listeners, these are not my bunions. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, does Google know that? I mean, what people who know this stuff say, and I think it makes sense, is it would not be possible. The data storage it would take to be recording everyone's conversations all the time are absolutely infinite. Or audio, as you know, audio files are huge. And then AI is quite poor already, that the idea that it could be combing through everything you're saying and picking out when you're not just like, shiting on about Game of Thrones. I know you, sure. Don't worry. Like pick out shiting on about Game of Thrones or giving out about your neighbor or just, talking about food to something that's actually like marketable.
Yeah.
Although I suppose all of those things are marketable in a way, but
I just think. Are you talking yourself out of this?
Sorry?
Are you talking yourself out of this? Convince yourself.
No, I mean, I just think what I've read that explains it is we're very, very bad. Like we're really bad at this confirmation bias thing. And, we might see something 100 times and not notice it, but then we'll notice it 3 times and think it's really creepy, So I think that's really what it is. And also, we're way
getting bunion ads for quite some time.
Yeah,
and just not
and maybe bunion content has been popping up and just didn't notice it. And then your friend mentioned bunions, and then you notice the bunion ads. And also I think people don't really consider we're way more predictable than we think we are. Like there's, I know it's sad. Like no one wants to be that, but a couple of years ago I started thinking, I wander in my house a lot. Maybe I should buy myself some really nice slippers. And I started seeing ads. Those ones, I forget what they're called. Actually, I don't want to say the name because then they'll probably start targeting me. But they're relentless, but they're really, really expensive slippers. And I mentioned to a couple of friends of mine, and they were all getting these slipper ads. And I think when people hit their early 40s, they just start thinking about slippers.
Yeah, they switch on.
They just suddenly slippers are an issue that we never were before.
Wow.
So we all like to think that we're special, unique little snowflakes.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I don't think we really are.
Well, I don't know. Jury's still out. But I just wanted to submit my bunion story.
Okay, thank you for bringing up bunions. Always nice to think about bunions.
It's an ongoing debate of us.
I want to mention Instagram as well. It was just interesting talking about the things tech companies say they're doing and the things they're actually doing. So you might have noticed just in the last month or two, Instagram announced they were doing away with likes. And they said it was because of mental health and bullying and aspirational thinking and people feeling sad because they look at the the person who has 700 likes for their beach photo and blah blah blah. And I thought it was really interesting. The media just reported on this really uncritically. They were like, Instagram announces initiative to blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But somebody I follow on Twitter was saying they think it is a deliberate move to hobble influencers. Because what influencers are doing, when you think about it, so I'm talking about the classic influencers like the beauty bloggers who have 1 million followers and get loads of like sponsorship deals.
Yeah.
They're making loads of money and Instagram's getting nothing of that. Because what happens is they go on Instagram, they build up the following, and then the brands go directly to them.
Yeah.
And Instagram doesn't get a cut.
Yeah.
So pretty good kind of prediction that the reason Instagram is taking away likes is because they don't want influencers. They want brands to have visibility of how influencers reach. They want them to go through Instagram to get that and get the big, the big handbag books.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reminder that no matter what they say, they're always putting their intention or their goals first.
Yeah, completely.
And if they line up with us, it's great. But if they don't, then we're going to suffer. And we've seen that a few times where Facebook and other platforms the changes they make to suit them have negatively affected us. And so I guess we just always have to be mindful of that.
That's it. And I think that's why email, just bang on about email endlessly. But the really powerful thing about email is that you have that data, like you own that relationship. You own that data. Like there's no third party between you and your email subscribers. I mean, you do have to use a platform like a MailChimp or something, but you still have that data. So if MailChimp shut down, you still have your list. If Facebook shuts down, you've no way of contacting them.
Yeah, if MailChimp put up their prices, if MailChimp put up, changes out,
exactly.
You can
You
pull
take
away
your
from
list
it.
and you move to another platform. Whereas with
nothing.
Facebook, you've no way of contacting those people outside of Facebook. So
Yeah.
so that's why, and wherever possible, move people from Facebook to email. So
Yeah.
you can do it through lead ads. You can do it through thanking people on their Facebook fundraisers and saying, "Will you sign up to get an email? Will you, can we send you a thank you email?" That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just wherever possible, email is where you can really communicate and connect directly with your. I was going to say connect. But
me too. Connect.
Like grab and control.
Connect.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's good advice. Okay, well, let's wrap it up there. I think there is still lots more for us to talk about, and hopefully we can another day. But Gina Bryan of Digital Charity Lab, thank you very much for coming on the podcast finally.
Thank you so much, Simon. It's been great.
Excellent. Take care.
You've been listening to Simon Scriver's Amazingly Ultimate Fundraising Superstar podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and head over to changefundraising.com to learn more or get in touch with Simon. Or don't, whatever. You're big enough to make your own decisions.
Hey, this is Simon Scriver.
And this is Nikki Bell.
We are running a virtual fundraising conference on November 19th. It's called Fundraising Everywhere, and you can find it at fundraisingeverywhere.com.
There's some amazing speakers that we've got lined up for you. We've got some names on there that you will be familiar with and some speakers that you may not have heard before, but all of them will be sharing amazing fundraising methods that are proven to work, and they will be teaching us how to do that in our own charities.
We've tried to make it really affordable for all organizations, but for small charities, it is completely free. So go look at it at fundraisingeverywhere.com. Register now. Join us. It will be accessible. It will be affordable, and it is amazing.
Yes.